Yes, I'm a pediatrician, a doctor who works with children, and I'm also specialist in physical medicine and rehabilitation. And I have the PhD in neuropediatrics. So I'm also interested in neuroscience, and this is what I do for almost 20 years. I work with children, with healthy children. I love to work with neonates, with babies, with toddlers, but with adolescents as well. And I work with children who have special care needs, and we try to empower them to live as independent as they can and to fulfill their potential, which they were born with. So this is what I do.
What was maybe your motivation to join this program, Dare to be Human?
I think it's very important that teachers and parents know that there are some mechanisms which help their children to live their lives much more fulfilled. So it's like in those old Greek saying, Gnosis Auton, written on the Delphi temple, to know thyself. So to know yourself. And with mindfulness, you can really tackle those deep ideas and thoughts. We all have those existential problems, so that you can really live your life more filled, more. It's how to be really human. If you want to be a human, you really need to dive into those depths of our souls. And the brain and the heart and our body, actually the neuroscience gives some insight into this. And I think that with my knowledge and with your energy, we can create something meaningful for parents and teachers.
Thank you.
Yeah, we also know that you're a mindful teacher and neuroscientist. How can you bridge those two talents or specialities?
Well, mindfulness was quite popular years ago, and I think now it has blossomed almost into the industry. And I think this is really not giving mindfulness all the credit it should get, because mindfulness can be misused and it can be misunderstood. So it can be used only as a tool to be more successful. And I think this is the mistake that parents and teachers nowadays do. So they think we should use mindfulness just in order to be more successful, to be better in academic sphere, to have more money, to have bigger house. And yes, mindfulness can actually help you with this, because we use mindfulness in medicine as well. For example, for doctors. For example, when you are operating in the operating theater, it's really important that you stay focused. And if you are mindful, this really increases your focus. Also, mindfulness is used with training with the military staff. And being mindful, it can literally save your life, because you are going to be more mindful in the present, and maybe you can save your life, avoid the enemy. But I think it shouldn't be misused for those purposes, because mindfulness is not the goal, it's not the end. Mindfulness is the path, how to live better, how to get in contact with yourself, how to tackle those existential problems and ideas we all have inside ourselves. And I think this is essentially being a human, being mindful. And I think it shouldn't be misused for the training of better attention or to have better success in academics. Yes, indeed, it does help you with this, but this is not the end goal. This is just the, let's say, it's just the side effect of living mindful. So actually, the neuroscience shows you that being mindful, it gets you in contact with yourself, with your body. And nowadays, when we have the environment, which is really not helping us to live better, I mean, it's the environment which is full of stressors, and we still live the life full of adversities, whether this is the high achievement environment where you really need to push really hard to be better, or in the economical circumstances where we all kind of fight with each other, who is better, who is faster, who is getting more. And then, of course, this all brings a lot of burden on our shoulders. And people are stressed, people are really tired of all this, and they forget how to live. And with mindfulness, they learn how to live again, because with mindfulness you actually get your prefrontal lobes, where is the center for the executive functions. It helps you to empower these prefrontal lobes to work better, even to calm down the areas of the brain which are from the evolutionary perspective older. We call it phylogenetically older, and these old structures which are working really hard when you are in stress, those are the structures, for example, for the amygdala, which is the center for fear. And if you feel like you are in danger, then your amygdala, this is the paired center in the shape of an almond, it starts to work right, and with the centers which actually create the so-called stress axis from the hypothalamus, hypophysis, and adrenal glands. This is the so-called HHA axis, the stress axis of fight or flight or freeze answer of our body, which is good if you are running away from the lion, because the lion is endangering you. So it's good that you are in stress and you get all the adrenaline and run away. But nowadays situations, we don't run from lions anymore. We get those subtle cognitive lions which are on our shoulders, is the societal demands on ourselves and on our bodies. And our brain has not changed so much. So our brain thinks, okay, this is like the lion chasing me, but in fact it's not. So you need to use all your brain and use all the structures which are phylogenetically newer, this frontal cortex, to calm down your body and to think and to get in contact with yourself, to ask yourself, okay, what's going on? What's behind this answer? And that's why with mindfulness and with all these mechanisms at play, really mindfulness can even lower your pulse rate, your pressure, heart pressure, blood pressure. So these are all the environmental diseases, also the elevated sugar in your blood, the diabetes, the arterial hypertension. This is all the pandemics in the modern world. It's also linked to the obesity, but behind obesity is why we are more obese. Why do we need all this food to stuff ourselves? What's behind that? And with mindfulness, really on our body, we can measure the effects. And of course, our brain functions differently, because our brain is the best tool we have got in the evolution. It's the adaptational tool which help us to adapt to the environment, even when the environment is full of adversities, full of stress. Then our brain, with this neuroplasticity, is able to change itself. So in order to answer to the pressures and to optimize our functioning, and this is what brain can do. And mindfulness really, it changes our brain, and then of course sequentially it changes the way we behave, how we live, and then yes, we can live a better life. And people are striving for living better lives, and I think in order to do so, they forget that it's not about the money, it's not about having more of stuff, it's about getting in contact with yourself and really, and with the others. So mindfulness also enhances the empathy for the others. So we live better for ourselves and for the people we love, for the people we live together. And this really makes our life better. Because we shouldn't forget, humans, we are not the biggest, we are not the strongest, we are also maybe not the most beautiful creatures on this planet Earth. And we have actually we have actually not conquered the planet, but we are all around the planet, not because we are the strongest or the best ones, but because we work together, because we are able to take care of the infants, not only our infants, but all the children we get in contact with. Actually, that's what I do. I'm the pediatrician. But we also can work together. We can make beautiful things. I mean, we can go into the space. We went to space. We went to the moon. We went to the Mars. Not because we are the strongest and the biggest, but because we can work together. And being mindfulness enhances the empathy, enhances these intricate links we have with each other. And this is what makes life better.
Thank you.
Yeah, interesting. And one more question. Is it also a big advantage, like we also try to bring mindfulness into the world, but we get sometimes that people connect to religion or that kind of things? Did you have the advantage to really have the quality to explain it also on a scientifically way? Do you feel that that's really advantage?
About the religion, well, I think people know that mindfulness and meditations, they are linked together, and they origin in religion. It's not only the Buddhist practice, because people sometimes think, okay, this is the Eastern Buddhist practice. It was also well known in the medieval times with the monks in Slovenia. We had the so-called white monks, and they were practicing mindfulness. But we shouldn't think about the religion only. It's actually the strive to know yourself. As I said before, in Delphi, in ancient Greek times, there was not such a religion as we know today, but they were also striving to know who we are, who we as human are. I think this is the ultimate human wish, strive, and we didn't get the answers to this, despite all the science, despite everything we have created, despite our beautiful brain. And I think this is also the beauty of our lives, to discover, who am I? What is life about? And then, of course, to enjoy this life, because life is a gift. It's a beautiful gift. It's not always easy, or I should say it can be also very hard. It can be very hard, but it's extremely beautiful. And to live your life, the best you can, to know yourself. I think that's human purpose.
I was curious because we expect that many parents are gonna come on the 16th, and also in general when I personally work with teenagers and with young people, parents are quite worried and often maybe not understanding in what is happening with the teenagers, with youth, because they're really in this fast changing period. They get quite emotional, they get easily stressed, they want more independence. Is there maybe, I know there is, but I'm curious, maybe when you are in contact with parents and of teenagers and young people, and also you're the mother, as I know, of a teenager.
Yes.
I'm curious, what can maybe be a bit helpful for parents to know about the brain of teenagers, the brain of young adolescents?
Yes. Well, you know that other animals, because humans, we are just one species of animals. So other animals know puberty as well. And the ethologists, those who study how do animals behave, they have discovered that there is some period where the antelopes, the antelopes, they are very shy animals. I mean, they run away literally from everything. But then there is the period when ethologists observed that those young antelopes, they ran toward, for example, the lion, toward the predator, looked into his eyes, and then ran away. So, what's going on? And they have discovered that these animals were in puberty, in the animal puberty. And maybe a little bit romanticized, but we can say that those animals who were able to look into the eyes of the lion, into the eyes of the danger, and they have survived, because not all antelopes survived. We have to remember that it didn't end for everyone well. But those who survived, they were really capable to live their lives as the adults. And the puberty is known also in other species, in monkeys, in chimpanzees, in dolphins, in elephants, in lions. So it's actually the period in our brain where the brain and also the adolescence gets the chance to know who she is, and while discovering this, really fulfill their potentials they were born with. Because in the puberty, there are very important changes in their brain, and that's why, because of those changes in the brain, the adolescents, they behave the way they do. We all know how they behave. What they do. They are really very bold. They question the limits, not only the limits of themselves, but the limits of the society as well. They are really daring. They love the speed, the energy, the excitement. And why they behave this way? It's because there is the mismatch in their brain, and that's why, the adolescence is not the era where we would like to be. Because, for example, when people say, oh, it's such a nice period, it's the best time ever you will have while you are in the secondary school, because you are, on the top of your body. And that's true, they are the healthiest of all. However, because of this mismatch in their brain, also the first psychiatric issues come out, because the brain is now developed enough to show also some discrepancies. So really there is the peak of this psychiatric. So in the adolescence, this mismatch actually is presenting so that on one moment they are hilarious, they are energetic, oh, everything is superb, everything is great, and then in the next moment they may be crying and they are really sad. It's like, and they don't know by themselves what's going on, and sometimes they even say that they say, I have no idea what's going on in my body and I don't have the control over it. And that's why in adolescence this is not a nice feeling, you know. It's like the brain does something to you and you are not in control of it. And this is because your frontal lobes, especially the prefrontal cortex, this is the last area of the brain to mature, and this is maturing in the puberty. And it's actually like, you know, big changes are going on. And exactly here is the home of our boss. You know, here is the chief of our executive functions. You know, what's important for me, how do I behave, you know, what shall I do next, what to so it's also, it's like the CEO, you know, a CEO of the whole brain, you know, the chief saying, we're now doing this and then we're doing this and that. And in the puberty, this is not working well, because that's why some people say it's under construction. The prefrontal cortex is under construction. But then there is, in addition, there are the areas of the brain which are working more intensely than in the adults or in small children. And especially these are the areas, for example, of the amygdalas, you know, and the amygdalas, the fear centers, they go in the puberty like, oh, give us more speed, more excitement, more height. And what they do, you know, they go to the highway and they speed up their motors up to 200 kilometers per hour. And, you know, it can, sometimes it doesn't end well because they are also not able to foresee what is coming. So this mismatch, it's quite frustrating for the adolescents. And then there is this limbic cortex, the emotions, they learn about it. They are full of hormones. And so what I would like to stress, it's not only hormones, because, you know, everybody sees the hormones. You can even smell the hormones, you know, you can smell, okay, you know, he is in adolescence or she. But these mismatched hormones and the cortical changes, because there are important changes in the brain where also some pruning should be done. What I mean by that, it's some cortical connections, the synapses and even the neurons, they have to not only change, but they have to vanish. So in this synaptical pruning, you know, it's not about brain getting more and more. It's also about getting less things the brain doesn't need. And this is very, very important. Apart from that, of course, the myelinization, these are the connections between the brain. It's getting more insulation. So this thing is getting bigger. The myelin is increasing, while this white matter is increasing, because this myelin is white insulation around the neurons. So this is increasing, which speeds up the velocity in our brain. So the velocity is getting higher, it's really high, while the connections are pruned, and also some neurons have to die in order to have the brains functional. It's like your hand, you know, if you look in the uterus, the baby, she doesn't have the fingers yet. It looks like, you know, in the fish, the fins, it's full. But if you want to have the functional hand, actually the cells between the fingers, they should die out. in the process called apoptosis, so that your hand and the fingers are functional. And about that figural, the changes in the brain are a little bit alike. So it has to change, it has to reconstruct in order to get the fully developed adult brain. And this is what happens in the adolescence. And this is what makes the adolescent behave the way they do. And they behave like this for ages. I mean, from the antique, you could read Plato or Aristotle, or how they describe the adolescents. They are full of heat, full of energy. They don't know how to behave. Yes, well, adolescents know how to behave. They just test the limits. They want test, so they test everything, and that's why the adults who are not well off with themselves, it can be quite tiring for them to see the adolescents really giving them the mirror, because this is what the adolescents do. They show you in the mirror, and sometimes you really don't like the picture you see in the mirror, and you can get mad at it. And adolescents are especially good at this, because they don't foresee how mad you are going to get, and they don't foresee that probably if you are mad at them, you can revenge them. And the adults who really don't understand this process, they may get in conflicts with the adolescents. They don't see that this is actually an opportunity to grow, not only for adolescents, but also for themselves. And it's important with the adolescents to get into this contact, sometimes even to get into the fights, because sometimes this is the only way to know who am I. Sometimes I like to hide myself. I like to present better than I am. And the adolescence is really good at going at me. Oh, show me your other part. Where is your other part? Or sometimes I get, so perfect. And then the adolescents know that. So the adolescents really cognitively and in the abstract thinking, they are like us, they are like adults. However, their emotional world and social connections, they are still learning about this. And they can learn about this only if we are presenting ourselves the way we are. And that's why they are also testing the limits, because how do you know where is your limit if you don't test it? So they test and push the limits so that they learn how far they can go. Apart from that, I also wanted to say that the adolescents also, why do we have the adolescents? I mean, if it's so painful for the adolescents and for the parents, why do we have this? I mean, but the truth is that in evolution, the mechanisms which helped us to survive on the level of ourselves as individuals or on the level of the human race or species, these things were incorporated in our genome and they survived through the next generations. And the puberty is such a mechanism, because if you want to have healthy offspring, if you want to have healthy children, then it's really not good to have children with your mother or with your sister. So you have to go out of your primary family. You have to move. I think you know best. So it's better. The farther you go, you increase the chances of not sharing the same genes. And not sharing the same genes actually increases the possibility to have healthy offspring, to eliminate all those recessive traits in genetics. Because you remember maybe from the royal families, they married, they interbreed with each other, and they didn't have healthy offspring. So the puberty, the adolescence allows you that. And that's why you need to go out of your primary family. You have to discover the world. The world should open to yourself, and you have to encounter different people. And also, not having these tight relations with your parents, but now to open into the society and build the relationship with other people. This is what adolescence allows you, and this is what brains allows you. And that's why we have the adolescence. So despite the fact that it's maybe not the nicest period in our lives, I mean, it's full of frustration. It's full of frustration for ourselves, for adolescents. But it can be also a very important period where we learn who we are. And this is actually brain giving us the chance to know who we are. Because when we are younger, we actually fulfill the will of our parents. I mean, we are dependent on them. While in adolescence, we actually grow up, our body gets stronger. We get almost adult by the body, but now there is also change in the brain, which is not completely developed. I mean, it is developed, but it's not completely ripe yet. So it's not working like in the adult. And this is actually the opportunity to, not to fulfill your parents' wishes, but to fulfill your program, your own program. And sometimes this is in conflict with your parents, sometimes this is in conflict with the society, but this is okay. This is how the life is. And this is how we get changes in every next generation. I mean, some things change, and if you dare to change, then I mean, it's good to change in the way so that you are fulfilled and the society has something from it. Sometimes these changes are not the best ones. Sometimes even the young people, for example, they go to extremes. So it's not always fruitful for the other people, but that's the way it is. So if you look, for example, at the heroes, also the war heroes or the national heroes, if you think back how old they were, the national heroes are young. National heroes are usually adolescents, in the late adolescence, so for example around 20, and they can commit great acts because of their boldness, because they are so brave. But this is not the being brave like the adults. For example, I always compare, for example, the national hero of the war, who is, for example, 20 years old, and maybe the heroes, for example, the firefighters who are, for example, 40 years old. They have fully developed brains. And when they, for example, are faced with burning house, they know that it's dangerous, that they may not survive. And maybe you remember the event in the United States when the Twin Towers collapsed, and the firefighters went in. And some of them, they called their families. They called like, hello, wife, I love you. I love the family, but I need to do what I need to do. It's my duty. And they went in, and some people didn't come back. So this was the bravery of the adult brain, while the 20-year-old, it's all the excitement. I have to rescue them. I just go there and rush and save them. This is a different type of bravery, and this is due to their brains. And in nowadays society, where we all hide ourselves, we like to pretend, we all wear masks because we feel like it's really dangerous to be autonomous, to be authentic. We feel like the society is going to punish us for them, and sometimes it really does, because we live in this high competitive society where people learn how to be careful and how to not to show who really they are. but this is dangerous because this way you lose yourself. And the adolescents are not like that. They are not able to wear masks. And that's why they are so fresh, and that's why it's so nice to work with them, because who is going to tell me, maybe that my hair is not well done? Probably it's not my husband. Probably it's not my best friend. She may say, you have an interesting haircut, whatever it means. Where the adolescents will say, oh, come on, what have you done to yourself? What have you done to your hair? It's awful. And actually, you will get these pristine answers from the adolescents only. I like to work with them, but you have to be prepared, and you have to know who you are, so that when they present you with the mirror, you are not like, oh my God, that's awful. I don't want to have anything with this. It's actually, you can learn something.
Okay. And how can neuroscience nowadays support the adolescents in their process?
Well, with neuroscience, we understand what's going on in the adolescent brain. So we know that they are not able to foresee, not because they are stupid, or they push the limits, not because they want to nerve ourselves, because they want to fight with us. No, it's the way their brain works, and they are learning, and that's why the adult brain, with a good working adult brain, we can present them with the sparring partner, so that they are able to learn who they are, what are their limitations, what are the limitations from the society. And they need a good sparring partner for that, because a good sparring partner is not someone who gets all the blows in their face. No, a good sparring partner also fights back, but not too hard. Because in adolescence, if they don't have a good sparring partner, they maybe can learn that they can fight vigorously and they win, but life is larger than we are, and sometimes you can get a straight punch into your face and it can damage you. And good sparring partner learns you so that you are not damaged that hard, but you learn that there are some punches you shouldn't deliver, there are some moves you have to do. So you don't need to experience everything in your life, because some experiences are not ending well, and there are some things you should never ever do. Not a lot of them, but there are a few ones. And a good sparring partner, prepares you, so you have to experience that. And the adolescence is this time where you experience, when you are starting to experience life with this full-blown life, with all the good things and with all the hard things as well.
When the game starts.
Yeah, the game starts.
Okay. Yeah, really interesting. You have more questions, Fritz?
No, I'm just, I really thought what you were saying about the youth and all this period, I think it goes really aligned with the program Dare to be Human. And I think it's really, I see youth and adolescence as a period really of exploring the world, exploring possibilities, exploring relationships, limits. And unfortunately, there are not enough role models maybe for young people, or they go in the ways that maybe are not the best for them, unfortunately. So maybe some experiences they have to learn on a hard way.
Yes.
So I think in this program is actually we want to give them an alternative. Okay, maybe there is something else that can help you on your path, but can also help you in your future life. Yes. So I think it really went in line with what you were saying about them. Yeah, so I'm glad to have you as a part of the team.
Yeah,
yes.
It's really.
I know. I have learned who you are. Not a whole scope, but I think I have kind of we have made the connections, right?
Yeah.
And it's a good connection. And I agree with you. The adolescence is the period of exploration. Who am I? What's the world around me? How can I position myself in this world? And the brain is helping you, but sometimes it's really getting hard. And when it's getting hard, it's important to have role models, but not only role models. You need to have sparing partners around you. The adults with the adult functioning brain who are able to take you as a human, you know. If you're a good sparing partner, you take the blows from the sparing partner, but you are also fighting him. And sometimes it's not the nicest way, but this is the way we learn. And good sparing partner it's not hurting you intentionally, you know. Good sparing partner is not killing you. It's not the one who wants you to vanish, who wants to erase all of your personalities. Good sparing partner sees you, feels you, you know, and good sparing partner knows who he or she is and tries to discover who you are. And this is actually the beauty, you know. How can we live together the way we are? And I think that's an art. That's an art. It's not science. It's an art. Yes.
But I think science supports a lot to understand the art.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. And thank you for the chat. And we're really looking forward for Tuesday to have you on the event on Dare to Connect. Yeah, and I think then we will share more about mindfulness, the brain, and about the youngsters. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.